This video is made possible and sponsored by Skillshare. The first 500 Chads who go to the link in the description will get a 2-month free trial.
I can't stop making you mad at me because I keep messing up.
Look, everybody messes up, even me. But I'm not afraid to admit it when I do.
Every journey has an end, and if one wants to make a finale successful, they have to not only make the finale great, but they have to make sure the final installment touches upon themes of its predecessors, and not just the comedy. Somehow, Diary of a Wimpy Kid Dog Days manages to do just that. I always remembered Dog Days as a film that had moments I absolutely loved, but it never left an impact on me that was as hard-hitting as the impact the first two films had left. So rewatching it, I was like, oh, man, I'm scared, like I don't want to roast this movie, but it ended up being great. And I changed my pants, and I was like, whoa, that was cinema. Now remember, this is a 4-part series, not a 3-part series, but it is the final installment of the Zachary Gordon series of Diary of a Wimpy Kid films. And you know what that means, right? The last one, the third one. That's right, today we're going to talk about Diary of a Wimpy Kid Dog Days. So Chads, before we start this video, I want to talk about what made this video possible. The very sexy, very green Skillshare. Skillshare got a complete makeover for 2020 to look beautiful for you Chads. The service is still the same though, providing hours upon hours of educational and informative content for you to learn. From editing tricks to ways to balance your life easily, Skillshare is here for you. With so much to explore, real projects to create, and the support of fellow creatives, Skillshare empowers you to accomplish real growth. Less than $10 a month, Skillshare has classes like Filmmaking on a Budget, Tips for Achieving a Cinematic Look by Simon Cade, a great class for people who want to become filmmakers and are just starting out. The first 500 of you Chads to click the link in the description will get a 2-month free trial of premium membership so you can explore your creativity. There's a bunch of classes for creatives like you and me. It's genuinely amazing. Thank you so much Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Supporting them supports me, so definitely check them out. So in a series all about the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, but making them better, Dog Days manages to merge The Last Straw and Dog Days to craft one satisfying conclusion that will surely leave fans happy. It left me happy, actually it left me quaking, but I don't want to talk about that. There's something to be said, again, about how all these things are happening at the same time, all these dilemmas that affect Greg's life, and they all bounce off and affect one another. So the film takes the summer misadventures of Greg and combines them with Greg having issues with his father. In the books, everything always ends well because of mostly coincidence, but in the films, Greg always has an active role in shaping his own destiny, which is why, again, I believe the films to be superior to the books. That's just my opinion, of course. So in Dog Days, Greg's dad, Frank Heffley, is essentially the deuteragonist. In the first film, it was Rowley.
You only care about yourself. You broke my hand and you didn't even seem sorry.
And in the sequel, it was your boy, Roderick.
I made a deal with her and we had a really good time and...
You're my brother. She'll never be my friend.
So in Dog Days, Greg's just vibing, but eventually gets into conflict with his father, and getting in trouble with an adult figure is no joke, because in comparison, the last two films were Greg coming into conflict with characters around his own age. Frank Heffley is the one character who can most affect Greg's life and alter it in ways that could potentially destroy the relationships Greg has built. 'Cause he's Greg's dad. If written wrong, Frank Heffley could come off as a total nag, an almost vindictive, self-absorbed man who wants to morph his kids into what he believes they should be, like in the books, rather than being a father who is overbearing because he's overprotective and wants his kids to just be more responsible in general, like in the films. The film manages to make Greg an irresponsible enough kid to make it seem like Frank's actions are reasonable enough for the audience to accept, but the film also manages to make Greg an underdog that has desires but is constantly being thrown obstacles to overcome before he reaches his destination. And the key thing here is that Greg's goals have to be within reason. Greg can't revert to his self-centered, near-douchey, will take down everyone around me to get what I want ways of the first film, so the film actually manages to nail this by keeping it simple. He wants to hang out with a girl he likes, Holly Hills, who can blame him. He's a middle schooler with a crush that's totally cool. And their interactions are great too, because Greg Heffley is totally out of Holly Hills' league. I'm not saying you're not turning heads now, Zach, I'm just saying your character is whack. Whoa, I just realized that rhymed. That's really weird.
15, love.
What'd she call me?
dirty love.
Whatever you say. Love?
What? Weirdo.
Because of this, Greg becomes an underdog, and it's relatable as we've all had crushes before. Like I've said time and time again, Zachary Gordon completely nails that egocentric yet charming and caring version of Greg Heffley the films introduced. And what's so cool is that everything from the previous films carry over. At one point in the film, Greg even gets Roderick a gig for loaded diaper for literally no reason, other than just because he can. Speaking of Roderick f***ing dies in this movie. We also get to meet the embodiment of privilege, Heather Hills, who is one of the most obnoxious characters ever put on film.
I'm totally freaking out. The DJ from my Sweet 16 just canceled because he's flying to Africa to help build a hospital. Can you believe that jerk?
She seems to act as one of the film's antagonists, and her story arc is what is resolved last. Meanwhile, in this country club, Greg has to constantly create false identities to keep getting in without Rowley's help, and it leads to one of the greatest moments in the entire film.
Of course, that's Roland Grepper.
Good morning, Arthur.
Hey.
Hey, Riley.
Hey.
Rowley, my man, what's up?
So if we know that Greg wants Holly Hills as a girlfriend and he comes into conflict with his dad, how does this all fit into the story? So Greg Heffley has finished 7th grade and he's ready for summer vacation, and by vacation he means becoming a pro gamer like Ninja. Greg's dad doesn't like this, and Greg has to constantly act like he's a better son to his father than he actually is. This all occurs because there's a deep desire within Greg to appease his father, and have his father respect him. There's something interesting about Greg and Frank in this film. Steve Zahn is absolutely friggin' incredible as Greg's dad and brings so much charm and energy into the character. Their dynamic feels like an exaggerated version of how father and son dynamics are in real life. From comparing one's child to other children, to bonding with that child over something insignificant. But it's a little thing they share together, and the two shine in this film. So here's the thing. The film deals with parenthood, mostly focusing on fatherhood and how it affects the child. There's this line earlier in the film, which is when Greg and Rowley talk. They went on a ride that Rowley's parents didn't want Rowley to go on, and this happens.
We're very disappointed in you, Rowley.
They're disappointed in me. Big deal. It's better than getting punished.
Maybe for you. You're used to it.
That's important. There's a difference between being angry at your son for not doing something right and being disappointed in your son for not doing something right. It's something that words can't really describe. It's more quiet, more brutal. It's a father's realization that they can't really trust their son as much as they thought. And Greg doesn't understand this until he actually does.
Aren't you gonna yell at me or something? Aren't you mad?
No. I'm just disappointed.
A lack of trust results in Frank contemplating sending Greg to a boarding school, which is brilliantly made to look like a prison.
Thanks to Spag Union and the tracking device around my ankle. My parents know where I am 24/7.
Onto how the film resonates all three films' messages into one, we get back to the central theme of the film, a callback to the first film mostly. We have to remember that at first, Greg Heffley did things that would benefit him, because he felt like that was the right thing to do. Now, Greg Heffley does things to create win-win situations because he now believes that's the right thing to do, but of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that the actions he takes are inherently noble or unproblematic. He usually does incredibly dodgy things to reach a conclusion which in his mind leads to the best possible outcome, and things never seem to go right. But the main issue isn't that he does bad things, albeit for the right reasons, it's that he never really owns up to his mistakes. The entire film has him running away from his problems or just ignoring them, and they go away on their own.
I can't stop making you mad at me.
Why am I mad?
And this scene is incredibly important because the movie makes a point to show just how similar Greg's dad is to Greg himself. It's the lack of confidence at times, that awkwardness, the desire to overcome obstacles that are bigger than him.
Because I keep messing up.
Everybody messes up. Even me. But I'm not afraid to admit it when I do.
The film, at the end of the day, is a father-son film, like I said before, about how similar yet different they are. There's a powerful shot in the film where Greg and Frank are at their lowest, and they drifted apart emotionally, yet they have to sleep in the same tent back to back. It's a really good shot, especially in context. Now, Greg eventually overhears this douchebag camp guy insult his dad, and the film prepares us for Greg to get the upper hand and defend his dad, but the opposite happens.
What happened?
I did it. Greg, no! Dad, it was my idea.
He's a disgrace to every wilderness explorer all over the world.
Shut up, Stan! Just shut up!
F***ing amazing. And I can't undervalue how important this is because I feel like a lot of people miss this. What's great is that the film isn't just a lesson learned for Greg, but for Frank as well. Because while Greg needs to own up to his mistakes, Frank also realizes that his son is a much better person than he thought, and that leads him to realize that most of the issues Greg has with his dad is because of all these expectations Frank has for his son that Greg cannot fulfill. The film then has the two chilling in a motel eating pizza and bonding over what just happened, both of them finally understanding and respecting each other because they understand now who they are. And this newfound respect is really uplifting and brilliantly executed to me. It's all about wanting your son to be what you couldn't be, what you aren't, and forcing that vision onto your son isn't gonna make the son happy. They'll most likely reject the forced image of themselves the father is putting on them, and so the film doubles down on the theme. The theme that has been with us since the first film and has been, elaborated upon here, and why the series has been so impressive for being just kids' films.
A man who never made a mistake. Never made anything.
You want to come over after school and play?
The trick is to be responsible and to learn from your mistakes.
You'll be Riley's partner even though you said it's totally embarrassing and humiliating?
Yes.
And you can do that. You're a really great kid, Greg. And I'm not just saying that because we're a lot alike.
I cannot overstate how much I love this part of the movie. After this, we get a whole scene of Roderick playing in Heather Hill's Sweet 16, and it all gets ruined, but the truth is, this should have been the ending of the film, because it just feels like the definitive climax and resolution. All in all, though, the film wraps up all threads in the series. Roderick is now friends with Greg, Susan trusts Greg, Manny is a baby, so that isn't really a problem for Greg, Frank now respects Greg, Riley believes Greg to be a worthy friend, and Holly Hills is now Greg's girlfriend, at least that's what the movie insinuates. And I really have to applaud all the work the crew, the director, the actors, everyone has put into the series because it's great. And with that, the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series ends. And I didn't think it was as good as Roderick Rules, but I do think that Dog Days had a rather fantastic finish. I mean, there were some jokes that really weren't as funny as they could have been, the pacing was a bit off, but all in all, it's a successful ending to the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series. Oh, right, it's not. I haven't seen The Long Haul, so that should be exciting. Hey Chads, thanks so much for watching this fantabulous video. If you're not a Chad and you like this video, all you have to do is click the subscribe button to become a Chad. What are we? A Chad nation full of people that stan Diary of a Wimpy Kid. That's right, when we grow up, we want to be Wimpy, that makes no sense. Anyway, thank you so much, patrons. You also make this video possible, and you make my life possible, because if not, I would probably be dead on the street. Because as you know, the economy is not amazing. So thank you all so much for that. Thank you for supporting me and my projects. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you come back to the table.